So the original lineup of the band, you guys were all friends, all musicians, you knew each other. How did the Dreamboat specifically start? Like, where did this, maybe you wanted to play together as musicians, but where did the concept of 50s and 60s cover band, matching outfits
start? But it kind of, because of the proto start was before. I'll just say this. The original members of the band was Richie, myself, Johnny, Mike Bolton, the golden boy Mickey B, as we called him.
Yes, sir.
And
the ever so gracious Mr. Robbie Sensacious.
Mr. Robbie Sensacious, Roberto Satius. So that was the original lineup. And I played in a band called the Steady Rollers. It was me, Mike, and Roberto. So 3 of the 4 original members. And we had broken up. We used to play kind of stuff. It was very similar to like the Sheepdogs kind of stuff. It was like Allman Brothers, early, like kind of 70s, that kind of thing.
Southern rock, I guess.
Yeah, Southern rock. So we broke up. And I remember after a few years, I bumped into Mike. He was working in Long and McQuaid. And we were like, let's get a jam going. So we got together and we were jamming and we were doing a lot of Beatles stuff. This was before we even jammed. And it was just a lot of fun playing these Beatles songs because that was all we kind of knew. Then we got another jam going one day and he said, hey, we're going to be jamming with Hummel from Long and McQuaid. And I'm like, who's Hummel? And we go, Hummel, he works in the drum department at Long and McQuaid. I'm like, all right. So that was when we got a room at DC Music. And this guy shows up. This was Hummel, by the way, Richie here. And I remember him coming into the room. There was the 3 of us. And then he came in and he was just he immediately went to the drum kit. He's like, yo, what kind of kid is this? That's my first memory.
Like, that's a strange comment for a guitarist. Like,
yeah, exactly. And he came in with this thing. I didn't really know who this guy was, but he worked at Long and McQuaid. And we just started jamming all these Beatles songs. And he was singing along. And he kind of knew the tunes. And it just felt kind of good. And then Richie here, capitalizing on the moment, decided that it'd be a good idea to do a band. That was his idea.
I just gave him a call. I just got his number. I just called and said, hey man, great jam. Like, what? I have this idea. Like, I always wanted this concept of like being able to play, like do the matching thing, like the Beatles did or whatnot, but also have the ability to kind of like do these rock and roll parties where everyone acted, ridiculous, and also get the slow dances going. Like, I wanted to get people slow dancing, and because my favorite memories and earliest memories were like Richie Valens, like slow dances. We belong together. Donna, put your head on my shoulder. Earth Angel from Back to the Future, Sleepwalk. You know what I mean? All these tunes I just loved, and
you're just a big softie.
Like it.
God,
he's the soft,
hopeless romantic driving the Dreamboats. Yeah,
don't go beyond it, but but this is kind of the concept. I thought that I think this guy would be on board with that. You know what I mean? And love the feeling of the drums and had love the era.
And we just knew the same songs.
Yeah, we sing the same songs.
Yeah, we really knew the same songs. All the La Bamba stuff. I'm like, man, I grew up on this stuff. I not only grew up, I love that kind of music. To this day, I genuinely love 50s and 60s music. I consume 90% of the music I listen to is still to this day, oldies. So I felt like when he gave me this call, I was on my lawn. I remember I was just pacing. He's like, dude, let's start this band. And I'm like, okay, great. Let's do it. And his old prior band, the Odysseys, had a jam space. So there's already a place to rehearse. And it kind of just stemmed from there. We didn't even have the name or anything yet. We just knew that we were going to get together, learn some of these songs, a lot of Beatles songs, stuff from the La Bamba soundtrack, stuff from Back to the Future. And we were going to eventually play some shows.
Fast forward, 2 weeks later, we went to Walmart and grabbed some George, great George vest with the and you got H&M black skinny tie,
and everything else is history.
Yeah, tight ass black jeans, and we kept it rolling from there.
And where did the name come from? The Dreamboats is a perfect name for the band. It gives an image. It sounds right for that era of music. It's the perfect.
That was the whole thing.
This is the great debate right now. You struck a chord.
You're both claiming to have said.
We are both claiming, and we both have the original members of the band. Roberto claims that I came up with the name. He remembers the exact moment as I remember it, and Mike, the other member of the band, claims that Richie
who later on too, we had a light falling where we love each other now kind of thing. But even with that, he'd still back it up and saying I was.
But he's still backed me up.
Okay, hold on, guys. who has more credibility between those two guys is another thing. Like if you have to go to court and prove this, who would you believe?
I don't have a chance.
Yeah, no, don't answer that. But I'm just saying.
No,
I'm
but
just saying.
you know, regardless, we have this little thing where I'm like, yeah, I came up with it because I remember saying it, and Chris
But I remember
saying
saying it to Mike too, and Mike was like, "I don't like the name the Dreamboats." I'm like, "Dude, it's the perfect name."
Well, what are your stories? Let's hear it. So just very
remember-
quickly, you know,
I knew it specifically because I took the name off when Michael J. Fox
Back to the
in Back to
Future.
the Future was cranking around the corners there, getting away from Biff on a skateboard,
Yeah.
and then his mom looks over at her friend, goes, "Oh, isn't he a dreamboat?" And I thought like the song we do to this day, we're big Back to the Future fans. Johnny Be Good, we end the set all the time with this thing. You know what I mean? And that was one of our favorite movies growing up. And that was just where I took the line from.
Johnny, where'd you get the
where
line?
I confidently took the line from.
I also love that movie. I know that movie word
Oh,
for
man.
word, so I know that that's a term. I know that that's a 50s term. And I remember going to the mic. We were in your rehearsal space, and I was like, "What about the Dreamboats?" And I remember that's how Roberto remembers it too. I think.
No, I was saying, Jules, these guys are making suggestions like Little Chrissy and the Dreamboats. I'm like, I don't know about Little Chrissy and the Dreamboats. I we just call it the Dreamboats, and we'll just call it a day.
Regardless, we will never know until technology will be able to use our
Scan
retinas
our
to
brains.
go back.
You guys,
but-
we'll get both of you guys to do a lie detector, and one of you knows it's the other guy. That
I
actually
will.
came
We're
up with it.
both-
We're
winning.
both
I-
confident in ourselves. I would, if there was a lie detector test, I would pass because
I would.
and he would pass too.
guaranteed.
So it's a good way. It's a good story to say we both came up with it.
But
the only way
it sounds like the origin.
first
It's the same
movie.
origin story. Like it's both of you guys is basically from Back to the Future. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
You can like agree that it's like from
Uttered
the
the
same
first-
source.
You
It's
uttered it.
you guys both got digital downloads from the Infinite Intelligence,
Yeah,
and you both shared the from the same source.
it was meant to be.
I
guess.
know where it's conjured up in this brain right here. I got this little section of when it was proposed, but
Me as well.
we'll see.
So that's it. So you struck a little chord there. With
I got to change the subject before the fist fight breaks out. So I have a fan question sent in, and this is from
You have fans?
arguably the Dreamboats' biggest fan in the world. So this is from Amanda Luciano, who I know.
arguably the biggest Joel Martin fan in the world. as
Well, that's
I
true.
feel
So she goes back to the Canadian Idol days. She's a massive Canadian Idol fan. That's how I got to know her. And then all the Dreamboat shows I would go to, she came out to one of them and never let go since then. She's been
Yeah.
No, you booked us a show at Bovine.
Yes,
and
the bovine.
and we opened for you or something. like that.
okay.
And
I
then
remember the
that was our first greaser set where we were like, we're not wearing suits. Let's just wear black pants. Let's wear some t-shirts, get some fake cigarettes, roll
Yeah,
them
that
up,
was fun.
grease it back. And that's where she met us the first time.
Wow.
And the rest was history from there.
Okay, so I remember like maybe the next Dreamboat show after that, she came out. And, you know, maybe I'm too busy at my own CD release party to tie that all together. But
Yeah.
at the next Dreamboat show where I have nothing to do with it, I came out and I talked to her in advance and she came out and was like, I love the Dreamboats, they're the best. So that's my memory. And you know what's funny is you guys playing that CD release party is the day I realized to never book the Dreamboats to open for me, because that's a hard act to follow.
Oh, God. Joe,
Yeah.
you're joking.
The
Apples and
lessons that you
oranges.
learn along the way, you know, I'm like, these guys are awesome, but I love them and they're popular and they're perfect. And then I realized they probably should have headlines. So there you go.
No,
No,
Joel,
you
thank
kidding
you.
me?
That
No,
was
that-
such a fun night.
Yeah, that was awesome.
But so Amanda's got a question for us.
She has I guess I should share her question. I was just giving her a bunch of love there. So she wants to
best.
know, other than the Beatles, who is the band's biggest inspiration?
It's a very good question.
Because the Beatles would be number one, I would assume. But then after that,
Can I say inspirations?
yeah, go ahead.
What do you want to start this one off?
No.
Okay, I'd like to think the Everly Brothers are one of them.
Sure.
I remember going through a questionable period of being like, I love these guys so much. I want to sing them. Is anyone even going to get what the hell I'm doing here? And then Billy Joe and Nora Jones released Foreverly, the album. I'm like, okay, it makes sense now. So I love the Everly Brothers, and I'm not alone. Richie Valens, of course. I literally piggybacked a career off Lou Diamond Phillips, who played Richie Valens in the movie La Bamba, and my stage name has been Richie Hummins in honor of the Valens and the Valens family. What else? I also, of course, but I love the Zombies. as well. I'm a big Zombies fan. Who else? I'd say those like my main, and Sam Cooke. And when you want to talk about just smooth, just amazing, immaculate, like
A change gonna come is like the
oh
greatest
man,
song of all
just
time.
that, but even his love songs too, like his political stand, just. And I think those are my heroes right there. And about Elvis, Leonard. Oh, I'll stop. Okay.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of like everything in anything from that era, growing up listening. My parents always had the oldie station on the AM like channels. And even when we formed the band, we'd always be buying those little like compilation CDs, like jukebox classics. Walmart. So it's hard to, pinpoint anything. I would say definitely the Beatles are one of the biggest inspirations for me, just with everything. I'm a huge Beatles like fan and nut. I love everything about the Beatles. So as a band, but then you have everyone like Jerry Lee Lewis and Chuck Berry, Buddy Holly, like all those guys. Like we know their material extensively. Everly Brothers, definitely an early fan or Jerry inspiration. Jerry and the Pacemakers, we shamelessly like, although we don't cover any of Jerry and the Pacemakers songs.
Only in my room to myself.
The Beach Boys, love the Beach Boys too. Like early Beach Boy stuff is just pop. It's as trim the fat as you can get. So yeah, all that stuff, all the jukebox classics. And I know it's kind of popular now. A lot of bands are doing the retro thing, and they're kind of doing rockabilly, and there's all these subsets. And I think where we are different is that we actually draw the inspiration from the golden oldies, like the top 40 hits of that era, where I feel like a lot of people in the retro scene, it's almost too cliche to do that stuff. But for us, it's like that's the cream of the crop there.
We have our shameless like stuff too. Like we like there's what's
sure.
about this band too is as much as we cover like the songs that everyone knows, like we throw in songs that we just generally love ourselves, and I don't expect you to know them, but if we could deliver them in a very passionate, convincing way that I believe you're going to enjoy. I hope that you're going to enjoy it, kind of thing too. So I wouldn't say we're just, we're all complete cookie cutter with our material. We're very shameless and can be selective of the stuff that we carry personally, like selective, But then there's some gigs that you play where like, we just had a booker book us as well. Then it was just like, we need all the songs that everyone knows, gotcha. We know the songs that are,
But the thing is, we love playing all these songs. Like we're playing, you might get some kind of like pub band or something doing like Pretty Woman, for example. But when we play it, it's like we actually like playing it. So it comes across differently. It's got our own style, our own version. We're not just sitting there like just doing it. It's like all the songs we picked are songs that we genuinely like. When we're doing La Bamba, it's like we're doing La Bamba because this guy grew up on the movie La Bamba. You know what I mean? It's like we like doing it. It's not like done in this kind of certain way.
I've owned that soundtrack, that CD like 4 times, where it's like it's busted, scratch to hell, throw it out and get a new one, vice versa. It's just like, like we generally love that kind of stuff for sure.
But yeah, that's the inspiration.
So Johnny, to prove your love of the Beatles, I have a memory. Let me know if this is true or not.
Okay.
I remember being at your place and you having the video game Rock Band, the Beatles edition on the Nintendo Wii. Is this true or is this false?
Oh, yeah.
This is a real memory. Okay.
Yes.
So that's how much you love them. You can play them on real instruments in real life. And then you get the plastic instruments and you play them in video game form. You can't get enough,
I would literally like turn off the lights in my basement. Like this is when I was like living at home, and they had the Paul McCartney bass for Rock Band. And like, I would just play the whole game on the bass, just playing along. Cause I just love listening to the tunes. It just added that extra level of like, I don't know, enjoyment. That's how like nerdy.
But you actually play like the drums in Rock Band.
On Expert, it's the real drums.
It's the real drums. Yeah, it's pretty sick.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I used to be a big Guitar Hero fan. I used to play. People used to tell me, they're like, you can actually play guitar, and I would play more Guitar Hero than I'd play actual guitar.
I know, it was so.
And
fun.
I was like, I don't know. It feels good on the fake guitar.
I know, and you just get into the songs. Like it's a different way to consume music. We almost got to bring it back.
Seriously.
Yeah. I still have, I have a PS5, but I have a Xbox 360 with all the Guitar Hero games, and I gave those to my nieces to keep, so still within my universe. I have the ability within an hour drive to play the Guitar Hero games if I need.
Nice. That's awesome. Good uncle.